Yeah, so if you fish anywhere in the country, one of the things you're going to have to deal with, regardless of the body of water you're on, is wind. And there's a fish. But yeah, I mean, I've learned over the years I don't run away from the wind because, I mean, as I'm about to show you, it doesn't run the fish off. So what you have to do sometimes if the wind gets up, you know, today we've got a 25-mile-an-hour wind on Kentucky Lake, and I was coming out here, I was gonna throw a worm, that's what I was catching them on yesterday, but with the 25-mile-an-hour wind, it can be hard to feel the bottom, so you gotta adjust your presentation. But bigger than that, I mean, a bigger key for me is having a good piece of equipment to be able to handle the wind. You know, I run a 3-bank Minn Kota trolling motor. I've got the new 112 Fortrex. You need it to be smooth and the head not be squirrely, because you're gonna spend a good part of the day actually standing on the trolling motor. And I'll set my speed of my trolling motor to kind of match the wind. I want it to barely just creep me forward a little bit in the wind. That way I can kind of stand on it, hold my position, and keep fishing the spot. You know, I found some of these spots when it wasn't windy. Finding fish in the wind can be a little difficult, looking for new spots, but if you've already got a good spot and you know they're there, they're not gonna leave just because it got windy. So especially when you're talking about offshore fishing away from the bank. So, I mean, it's the key part of it is, you know, sometimes you've got to turn and face in the general direction of the wind to keep your boat in control and keep from blowing off the spot, which means you can be throwing kind of an angle out of the back of your boat. A big key when you're fishing wind can be these more horizontal presentations. You know, a crankbait, a spinnerbait, a Carolina rig with a big heavy weight so you can maintain that bottom contact, a football jig with a big heavy weight. You know, I'm gonna stay away from, you know, a Texas rigged worm with a little bitty weight, or you know, jerking a spoon around, something like that that's gonna, you know, the wind's really gonna wreak havoc on not only feeling that bait, but just casting it. But then conversely, you know, some of the times fish won't be as active in the shallow waters when it's flat, calm, sunny, and clear. And a hard wind on a place like a point or a little cut, you know, the wind blowing in there can blow the bait in there and really get the fish where they're not as spooky. They'll get up there and feed and stay in that 1-2 foot of water. Whereas when it was clear and calm, they wouldn't get up there. So the big point I would make is, you know, don't necessarily run away from the wind. If you've got the equipment that can handle it, a good strong trolling motor, strong batteries, you know, that you keep a good charge on, that's a big thing that people don't realize. You know, with trolling motors, you know, I'm gonna be standing in the wind all day today. It's gonna drain my battery down to nothing. And you do this for 8 hours. As soon as I get home, I plug up my batteries and start charging them. Batteries are real sensitive to being left without a charge. So if you run it down dead one day and then you let it sit there for 4 days without a charge on it, that battery won't hold its charge as long anymore. That's a key component to being able to handle and fish in the wind is keeping your battery strong all the time. Obviously, you have an advantage with a 3-bank trolling motor. You know, I've got this 112 set on about 50 right now, and I'm fishing in a 25-mile-an-hour wind. There's one. Good one. It's a nice fish. But that's what I mean. You can look out there and see how bad it's white capping in here. I pulled over here to a point. In the wind that's taking the wind right in the face here. And look at that. That's a great bass on the 6XD. Like I say, I'm throwing a big crankbait, something I can feel the whole time in the wind. I can maintain contact with the bottom and where I'm fishing, so that's a good fish. We'll let her go. If I don't get bites with something like a crankbait or a spinnerbait, something I can maintain contact with on a steady retrieve, that horizontal presentation, and I need to throw a jig or a worm in the wind, I'm gonna turn my boat. Usually I'm gonna face head into the wind because it's easier to control your boat if the bow of your boat is actually facing into the wind. And then I'm gonna throw straight back with the wind. And what that does is now I can feel my bait. My line doesn't have a big sideways. You know, if I try to fish perpendicular to the wind, you're gonna have this big, huge bow in your line, and you're gonna have to try to feel your bait with a big bow in your line. And so when you get a bite, even if you can feel the bite, which most times you can't because of that big bow, if you can feel the bite, now you've got to reel up all that slack and figure out when you're at the fish before you set the hook. So it just makes fishing a lot more cumbersome with these bottom bouncing baits in the wind. Like I'm fishing now, I've got my boat faced into the wind coming in here. My line is kind of straight back even with the boat. I've got my rod sideways, but my line is straight with the wind. That kind of alleviates that bow for me. There's one. Good fish too. It was a big one. It's a big one. It's coming up. It's gonna jump out there. Nice one. So yeah, so I was able to feel that bite because I had good contact with my bait because I wasn't having to fight a bow in the wind. It's a good fish. He's really pulling hard. Just take our time here. There he comes. He swallowed that plastic on there. So that's a good fish right there. 2 3/4 pound bass, and I'm just throwing that's just a 3/4 ounce biffle head, and I had a Strike King Menace grub on there. And that was something that heavy head, I can maintain bottom contact as long as I control the bow in my line. So that's a good fish, a nice schooling size fish, and we'll let her go. Bye, buddy. Let her go.
Check us out at wired2fish.com.